Hey guys, what's up, and welcome to a bonus 2-Bit review. I'm your host, 2-Bit Jesus. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's like, wait a minute. We already got our review for this month. Why are we getting a bonus review? Well, there was a special game that came out just a few months ago, and it's a franchise that I absolutely love. And I wasn't going to just sit here and wait for the next year to do another beat-em-up review. And I didn't really want to review the game right then and there. I did want to save this review for this time of year because this is the time of year I take a look at a beat-em-up review. So, without further ado, let's review Streets of Rage 4. I couldn't wait to get my hands on this game and I couldn't wait to review it for you guys, but I wanted to do it during a special time, and that being September when I do beat-em-up reviews. So, without further ado, let's get right into it, folks. Streets of Rage 4 is a beat-em-up developed by .emu, Lizard Cube, and Guard Crush Games. It was published by .emu. This game is the fourth installment in a 25-plus year dormant series. It was released for PC, Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on April 30th, 2020. Steven Studio ported the game to the PS4 and Nintendo Switch, while Blitworks ported it for Xbox One and Windows 10. So, how did we get this title from .emu and company after 2 decades of the series being dormant? I mean, it's like Sega forgot this franchise in their intellectual property storage unit. Well, there is no doubt that with the success of 2017's Wonder Boy: The Dragon's Trap, which was a remake of the 1989 Sega Master System classic Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap, .emu and Lizard Cube had earned some clout with Sega and asked if Sega wouldn't mind letting them take Streets of Rage for a spin. Sega agreed. .emu and Lizard Cube asked Guard Crush to get in on the action and join them to develop Streets of Rage 4. They used a modified version of Guard Crush's Streets of Fury engine. Streets of Rage 4's art style was inspired by many things. A quote from one of the developers states it ranges from video games, comics, iconic over-the-top 80s movies, but in particular, Street Fighter III and Garou Mark of the Wolves animation style had a big influence on Streets of Rage 4. An Easter egg in the game can be found on the window of the arcade stating, "Where are my pixels?" This joke was put there because at the reveal of Streets of Rage 4, some hardcore fans in the crowd shouted that quote with their disappointment in the new art style. The development team stated in an interview that pixel art, for one, is not their strong suit, and they wanted to do an evolution visually of the story instead of a retreading a la Sonic Mania. Yuzo Koshiro returned to compose music for Streets of Rage 4. The game begins with Koshiro's music and ends with it. Very poetic and proper. The main composer stated in an interview with Nintendo Life, it was decided that the music shouldn't relate too much with the previous games because Yuzo Koshiro and Matsuhiro Kawashima, the original composers, are part of the Streets of Rage 4 composers roster. He further stated, "I wanted to respect the legacy, and I followed their vision of using club music not only from the 90s, but the last 25 years as well. The biggest challenge was to make them sound cohesive, so I twisted each genre to make what I would call the sound of Streets of Rage 4. Now, folks, I could go on and on looking up articles and interviews all day long getting tidbits for this game, but that wouldn't leave any room for the actual review. So without further ado, let's once again grand upper into this review. The controls are fluid as ever. I would even go as far to say that they perfected them from where they were 25 years ago. Every action and move feels smooth with no delay or stiffness. The basic gameplay mechanics of Streets of Rage 2 and 3 are still there. You go from the right side of the screen to the left side of the screen beating up baddies with your fists, kicks, and weapons. You also collect money for points, /lives, and food for health. An added bonus in this game, you get to pick what the food is. Pizza, sushi, a big old thing of roast chicken /turkey, whatever that thing is. Pretty cool, you get to pick your food. The development team have made noticeable improvements to the formula. When you throw or hit an enemy to the side of the screen, no longer do they fall out of the scene and you have to wait for them to come back into the view to finish them off. They now bounce off the side and back into the scene. This is a vast improvement, as in the old games it got a little annoying waiting for the AI to stroll back into view. You can also chain devastating combos using this new feature. They took away Streets of Rage 3's role in running abilities. I'm guessing they did this to A, better balance the overall gameplay, and B, help differentiate the playable characters better. The specials have been improved as well. You have an offensive and defensive special. Your offensive can be broken by a hit, but your defensive one cannot. You can also perform a dash attack with your special, which comes in handy with those hard to reach enemies. You have a super special as well that is devastating but can only be used once per level. That is, if you can't find the star item, which is in every level. The more stars you have, the more you can unload these super specials onto your enemies. The specials have been given a risk-reward system. No longer will you just lose health. You'll be given a chance to earn back the health you used for a special by landing hits on baddies, but if they hit you before you can refill your health, it is lost. This new addition really adds strategy and opens up the door for players to not be skittish on using their special move. You have 4 main game modes. Story mode, which is the main game where you play through 12 levels with the game saving your spot at the beginning of each stage. An addition they made to the main mode is if you lose a level, you can retry it with more lives and supers, but your score will decrease by taking this handicap. Arcade is just like story mode, but you have to play through all stages with limited lives. The old school way to play Streets of Rage. Boss Rush, which is self-descriptive I think, and Battle Mode, which is a fighter/brawler mode. You can have up to 4 players locally or 2 online. Let me say that this game is the most fun playing with a friend. It's how beat-em-ups were made to be played, man. You have a cavalcade of characters, but let's start with the basics. You got Axel, your basic all-arounder. Blaze, who is very similar to Axel, but has less power in her basic attacks, with the trade-off being having more power in her special attacks. Cherry Hunter, who is this game's Skate. She is very fast and aerodynamic, but has very weak attacks. Floyd is our tank, and will demolish any enemy near him, but he has to catch them first, as he is incredibly slow. Streets of Rage 4 also has a ton of hidden characters. Adam Hunter finally makes his return from the first game as a playable character, and he is awesome. He is faster than Floyd and still packs quite a punch. He is my go-to character, but then again, I'm biased. I'm a Adam Hunter fan. That's who I am. The other unlockables are the entire rosters of Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3. They all retain their abilities and their pixelated looks. I love seeing that old squad car again. It is awesome. You also can unlock and play Shiva. Adam is unlocked just by playing through the story mode. The other characters, however, are unlocked by adding to your overall score in the game. One glaring omission is Rue, the boxing kangaroo from Streets of Rage 3, but he does make a cameo in Streets of Rage 4, tending a bar. Enemies are varied. You have, of course, your basic thugs, gun dudes, mohawk dudes, heavyset dudes, kickboxing dudes, whip ladies, punk girls, and of course the most famous crony of all, Donovan. These classic enemies return, but also we have new additions. The bikers have been replaced with a tougher biker chick, a cyborg dude, an Orange Cassidy clone who only uses his legs to attack you, punk girls who throw chemicals/grenades at you, and a big karate guy who you don't want to take head on. Streets of Rage 4 also adds in a new faction, the Cops. They have basic cops, taser cops, grapple cops, and riot shield cops. They will attack you and the criminals on the street. The bosses are varied as well and don't disappoint. You got a lot of new additions along with some oldies to tug at your nostalgia heartstrings. I won't go into strategy or details about the enemies and bosses, as part of the fun is discovering it for yourself. Suffice to say, the combat and strategy is deep and rewarding, but also open and welcoming, so a novice to the Streets of Rage series will not get overwhelmed. Levels are pretty straightforward. Start from the right and move to the left, or in case of the elevator portion, start from the bottom and go to the top, or vice versa, depending on which elevator you're riding. The levels have been designed with great detail and help the combat shine even brighter, as placement of your character and enemies is king. Take advantage of the layout of each level and you will dominate your enemies. You go all over the place in Streets of Rage 4. You rage in the streets, police headquarters, docks, sewers, trains, Chinatown, art museums, the rooftops, inside a plane, and the main enemy's skyscraper headquarters, and their fortress island. There are secret mini-levels that are found by hitting an arcade with a tase gun. These levels provide stars and a fight against a retro character who does not appear in the main game. The knife dude from Streets of Rage 2, the wrestler, and of course, the OG baddie himself, Mr. X. The only negative is the final stage does not have a boss gauntlet, which was tradition in Streets of Rage games. But I can forgive this as the game provides a boss rush mode to offer that feeling. I have to say, I absolutely love Streets of Rage 4's gameplay. They pulled off something I didn't expect. They improved and evolved what came before. This is by far the best beat 'em up gameplay-wise I have ever played. 4 bits out of 4. Oh boy, what the franchise is known for, the sound. And this game does not disappoint. So many memorable tracks, and they come through beautifully, as we don't really see poor audio quality that much anymore in modern console games, and PC for that matter. As I stated in the tidbits, Koshiro and Kawashima returned to help contribute to the soundtrack. But I also have to give props to the main composer of the game. The tracks are unique and standouts. The music is very dynamic. In the original games, they had the main stage theme, then it would change to the boss fight theme, but Streets of Rage 4 takes it another level as the music changes with the level as a whole, not just the boss fight. So when you get to a new section of the level or the pace changes in the level, so does the music. The lip sync is off a bit when voice work is used, but that's a very minor gripe. Sound is phenomenal and fitting that it begins and ends with Yuzo Koshiro. 3.5 bits out of 4. This game is beautiful. The characters and backgrounds and foregrounds are all beautifully drawn. The game opens up with an awesome animated intro that reminds me of a lot of late 90s and early aughts video games that used animated intros. The retro characters that you unlock have been cleaned up and upscaled, and they look good up against Streets of Rage 4's levels and characters. The plot synopsis is as follows. It's been a whopping 10 years after the events of Streets of Rage 3, so we can place this game in the early 2000s, 04 to be exact. The city now has a name for once. Instead of just being called the city, it's Oakwood City. Even though the evil Mr. X was defeated 10 years ago, the city once again falls under the control of a crime syndicate led by Mr. X's children, the Y twins. Get it, guys? Because Y comes after X? Because it was Mr. X and his syndicate, and then his kids take over. They're the Y twins because Y comes after X. It's a great joke. If you get it. Their big plan to control the city is to use hypnotic techno music to brainwash the city. Blaze Fielding, who is no longer a part of the police force but still keeps her ear to the ground, brings in Axel Stone, who is retired and living in the wilderness, Cherry Hunter, Adam Hunter's daughter and electro-progressive rocker, and Floyd Aria, a cyber-enhanced protege of Dr. Zan. They are later joined by Adam, who is working special investigations for the police force. The group battles throughout the city, fighting the syndicate and corrupt cops. They go up against some new and old faces, like the corrupt chief of police, Estel, a strong-willed but stubbornly naive cop who realizes later in the story she is fighting on the wrong side and helps our heroes. You fight some oldies too, like the bartender from Streets of Rage 2, and Shiva. You also fight Streets of Rage 2 tank character Max, who has been brainwashed. Some new bosses are a techno DJ, twin snake ladies Bayo and Rhea, and of course Mr. X's children, the Y twins, Mr. Y and Miss Y. Mr. Y has his dad's love of guns, while Miss Y has her own unique style, specializing in swordplay. At the end of the day, the gang defeats the twins, and you get an awesome credits scene showing a visual epilogue. The story is solid, but very paint by the numbers. I enjoyed it, but I still feel like the stakes were higher in Streets of Rage 2, as not only was the city in danger, but one of the main characters. I guess you could say Max was, but they don't tell you that till the end of the game. Graphics are awesome, the story is good, so 3.5 bits out of 4. So Streets of Rage 4, pretty awesome game. A lot of love put into this game, a lot of callbacks, but also a lot of pushing the ball up the field, setting the bar higher, evolving the series. This is everything I would want in a sequel to one of my favorite franchises of all time. It just hit all the right notes, did all the right callbacks. I could just go on and on for my love for Streets of Rage 4. Also, the fact that it begins and ends with Yuzo Koshiro's music. It's very poetic, and if we never get a Streets of Rage 5, this is perfect. You can end the series here. This was awesome, but I would hope for a Streets of Rage 5. I wouldn't mind another one. I really love this game. Come on, .emu, Lizard Cube, and Guard Crush. I mean, well, let's make another trilogy, right? I mean, you can have my money. So, my final verdict for Streets of Rage 4 is a must-buy, an absolute must-buy for the casual and hardcore collector, or I should actually just say user of the Nintendo Switch, the PS4, the Xbox One, or if you're playing on PC. It's worth it on all of the different platforms, and it's pretty much the same game on all different platforms, so doesn't matter where you play it, you're getting the full experience. You can get this game online digitally for around $25. I've seen some physical editions online, but honestly, the easiest, fastest way to get this game is digitally on the Nintendo eShop, Xbox's store, the PSN store, or of course, Steam. So that wraps up our Streets of Rage 4 review. I thoroughly enjoyed playing this game and reviewing it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that thumbs up button, and if you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe and hit the bell. That way you don't miss a thing that we are doing here on the channel. And with that said, guys, I'll see you next month for a spooktacular review for Halloween. As always, stay safe and play on.